Hello friends, good afternoon. Happy New Year, January 1st. Just about 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. We're here in New York City at the moment on Museum Mile. Looks like 91st Street and 5th Avenue. On the north side of Cooper Hewitt, the Smithsonian Design Museum. Gorgeous building. And we're going to do our little New Year's walk. Do me a favor, say hi in the chat, let me know where you're watching from as we kick off. And today, the plan is to walk around Central Park, literally. We will do the perimeter of Central Park, starting here on the Upper East Side, heading towards Harlem. And like I said, we are along Museum Mile, so our second museum. We started at Cooper Hewitt. Number 2, the Jewish Museum, 92nd Street and 5th Avenue. They have an exhibit right now about New York in the 60s, from 1962 to 1964. And it's an absolutely stunning building. Lots of mansions and these gorgeous apartment complexes along the park. Although up ahead, we will enter the medical center, Mount Sinai. JK is here, watching from Canada. Happy New Year, happy 2023 to all of our friends in Canada. City Bike along our left here. It's the New York City's bike share program. And I'm seeing lots of people out for their afternoon January 1st walks on this beautiful day here in New York City. So the plan is, again, to walk the perimeter of the park. 5th Avenue, 110th Street, Central Park West, Central Park South. We may do a couple detours into the park here and there. But today the primary objective is just to see the architecture around the park. I've done this as a recorded walk many times. I'm not sure I've ever done it on a live, so it should be fun. Scott Briggs is here. Happy New Year. Joy to you. Happy New Year. It's good to see everybody. It's a fun day. Hope everybody had a good night. We did a non-traditional live stream last night, not in Times Square. Had some streaming difficulties, but I posted a replay this morning, so no buffer, higher quality. And I also posted an excerpt of just the New Year's fireworks from Central Park. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please make sure to check that out. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the work that we do, maybe take that fireworks video and share it with somebody who might enjoy that. Tom in Vermont is here. Hello to our friends in Vermont. Passing 95th Street and 5th Avenue now. Up ahead, one of my favorite sites, a couple of my favorite sites in Central Park, which are not filmed as often as the southern half of Central Park. But up ahead, we will see Conservatory Garden, a series of formal gardens in Central Park, truly beautiful. And then just beyond that is Harlem Meer, one of the bodies of water in Central Park, also very beautiful and often, frequently home to lots of interesting birds. And I've read recently that there are a lot of interesting birds in Central Park right now, including a few really gorgeous owls. So who knows, maybe we'll see something interesting today, some wildlife. Sebastian's here, good to see you. Happy New Year to everybody, again. This is one of the big cross streets in Manhattan, 96th. We're passing Woodman's Gate, one of the newer sites that we're going to see up ahead, very historic, is for the first time since the opening of the park, they have a new named gate, which is called the Gate of the Exonerated, as a historic apology to the Central Park 5. But for now, a little bit of Fifth Avenue, the northern end. We'll catch up if all goes to plan, we will catch up on the rest of Fifth Avenue after we get all the way around the park. Lots of beautiful buildings up here. Again, we're going to enter, this is the Mount Sinai area. So Mount Sinai owns a huge amount of the buildings on this stretch of Fifth Avenue. But there are some additional museums a little farther down, the Museum of the City of New York and the Museo del Barrio. And then at the very end of the park at 110th Street is the Africa Center at Duke Ellington Circle, which has this beautiful statue of Duke Ellington. So we have lots of cool sights along the way. Alan Parks wishing everybody a Happy New Year. Good to see you. I'll give you guys some Central Park views as we walk around. Some of the gorgeous parks and fields up here. Just in the distance are some of the baseball fields. Up here, kind of above the 90s, the park is just generally less busy, but it's so gorgeous. You have these rolling hills over here, and then on the other side of the park, which we'll eventually get to, the North Woods, really beautiful. Here's a top view tour bus on our right. It says the Uptown Tour. Hopefully those folks are having a good time. It's a windy day. I don't know if you can hear it on the mic. I have a little mic cover. But mid 50s today Fahrenheit. Very bright day. Very blue sky. Not too many clouds that I can see. So it's a gorgeous start to the year. Hope wherever you are, it is just as beautiful. I see ER Trauma, good morning, Happy New Year. And I see Sabrina Fair, always good to see you. Happy New Year. We are, if you're just joining, we are doing the perimeter of the park today. And I was saying, I've done this a few times as a recorded walk. I'm not sure I've ever done it as a live walk, so something a little different. Again, along our right-hand side where we are, Mount Sinai, one of the big hospital systems in New York City. And on our left, Central Park, including one of the many playgrounds in Central Park that I look forward to taking my little kiddo to as he grows up. Walks and cameras here. Carol Woods, Happy New Year to you both. And Alan Parks saying, I can't believe Times Square is already cleaned up. Well, I saw some video from Times Square yesterday. I told you guys, not my jam, so we streamed from Central Park instead for the midnight fireworks. Had some streaming difficulties, but check again. I've posted the replays. No buffering now. Higher quality. But I saw some of the video from Times Square. It looked, I have to say, less busy. So I think they must have allowed fewer people in, or because of the rain, fewer people were interested in going. It didn't seem, quite as sardine-like as it has in years past, but, I wasn't there, so hard to know for sure. But a huge shout out to the New York Sanitation Department. They do a tremendous job of keeping these things clean and also adding security. They use their own trucks as barriers. Arthur Brisbane Memorial on our left, American editor and patriot. And I was saying the Mount Sinai complex is gigantic. It really goes blocks and blocks. Up ahead, a return to Museum Mile with the Museum of the City of New York, a truly wonderful museum if you've never been. LL is here, Colleen is here, Preston, Stephen Bate, lots of friendly faces and some new faces as well. Good to see everybody. Happy New Year. One of my favorite exhibits, I saw two amazing exhibits at the Museum of the City of New York that come to mind. One, and this was years ago, so don't quote me as if it's still there. One was on zoning in New York, which probably sounds like the most boring thing in the world, but the point of it was, why do some buildings have such distinct architecture? So let me give you an example of this. If you guys know Tom from Walks and Wall Street, one of his favorite buildings is the Seagram building. And he always points out how it has this beautiful plaza, and the building is kind of set farther away from the street than some of the other buildings on Park Avenue. That's zoning. And so at different points in New York City's history, buildings were required by code, by law, to literally look different. And the point usually was to keep the tall buildings from creating so many shadows on the ground, because some of the really old buildings prevented light from reaching the ground, literally. So it was interesting to learn about the different sort of eras of zoning and laws and what that meant for how the city looks. Across from us is the New York City Academy of Medicine. The reason I'm pointing at it very quickly, I don't know a ton about it, but there used to be a memorial here to a very, suffice to say, complicated figure. So there was a memorial to an old doctor from like the 1800s. But the thing is, it turns out that a lot of the quote-unquote advances or learnings or whatever, the experimentation he was doing was on, if I remember correctly, slaves, enslaved women in particular. And so that particular memorial has been covered up, and there's a long essay explaining why it's covered up and that they're going through this process of figuring out what to do with it and how to tell the story and where it should live and all this stuff. But this, and more positive, is the Museum of the City of New York I was just talking about. The second exhibit that I loved at the Museum of the City of New York was on the New Deal. I'm a huge, what's the best way to say this, history buff about the New Deal. And they had this amazing set of artifacts of how the New Deal impacted New York City. And it was just interesting to learn how many things like libraries, but also parts of Central Park, lots of different parts of various parks, and much more came from the New Deal. And as somebody living in New York City now in 2023, where we struggle with things like building housing and other stuff, it's so interesting to learn about a time where they built so much of what we know today came from that time, and it's really interesting. I saw William from Brooklyn, good to see you. Saw William earlier on the Dutch Moz live stream. Dutch was showing us the polar bear plunge. That was super fun. All right, let's take a very brief detour into Central Park and see Conservatory Garden, which is still, it's a series of 3 formal gardens. The one on the southern end of it, one of the 3 is still under construction, but let's take a quick look at the other 2. Yeah, it's 2023 already. Hope everybody's year is off to a good start. So you can see on the left side, the southern end of the gardens, all the fencing. I can't wait for it to reopen. It's going to be beautiful when all 3 gardens are back up and running again. And then on warmer days, There's usually a fountain back there. Wonder why it's off today. They could probably run it today, but maybe there's too much cold in the forecast or something. I don't know. There's all these beautiful benches throughout the gardens. So during lunchtime, you'll see people from Mount Sinai and other places come over to have lunch here. On a summer day, the park fills with people. And then over here, this is another one of the formal gardens. It's usually lots of flowers, but it's winter, so not as many flowers, I suspect. But let's see what the colors are today. And another beautiful fountain in the center. Let's go take a quick look. Looks pretty bare to me. We're waiting for those warmer days to come back again. John Doe is here. Good to see you. Yeah, it looks like this fountain's off as well. But how beautiful is this? Imagine sitting here on a nice summer day, usually the rim of the garden covered in flowers. So it's a different time right now, different season, but really beautiful. Very peaceful here. Good place to read a book. You'll sometimes see people doing sketches and drawings here, paintings, watercolors. Let me pop out and we'll go see Harlem Meer, and maybe we'll walk along the side of the edge of Harlem Meer so we can still technically say we're walking the perimeter of the park. Ooh, and it looks like there's some ice on Harlem Meer. I saw Mr. Adam. Happy New Year. Diana Lee is here. S. Fields. S. Fields, we missed you yesterday on the New Year's stream, but we're happy to see you on the New Year's Day stream. How beautiful is this? So this is Harlem Meer. For me, it's one of my favorite bodies of water in Central Park. Truly beautiful and always covered in wildlife. So as we go around, you can see some of the birds in the distance. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. It's a beautiful day here in New York City. I was saying earlier, I've been told that there are a bunch of interesting birds in the park right now, including some beautiful owls. So who knows what we might see today? But let's walk along the water here, Harlem Meer, and who knows what we may see. Ramon is here. Hello and a happy new year. Hey, same to you. S. Field says, sad story. I fell asleep before midnight. Work is kicking my behind. Oh, well, you know, it does seem like folks are getting back to the before times swing of things, you know, back to the office and so forth. And New York City, as you guys have seen on maybe my stream, but maybe others, it's getting harder and harder to stream in Midtown Manhattan, which for the longest time was really empty because there weren't office workers and there weren't tourists, but now sort of both are back. And it's getting very difficult to stream there because of how many people there are. So it's a new era here in New York City. But it also means we're probably going to be streaming from different places. I mean, I think we tend to stream from different places more than most. Do a lot of Central Park, for example. But it's sort of forcing us to be more creative. Nabul, Sally, so good to see everybody. Happy New Year. Wishing everybody health, happiness, and success in 2023. All good things. We're doing the perimeter of Central Park today. We've popped in for a little bit of a Central Park detour so we can see some of Harlem Meer, but we're going to pop back out at the edge of the park because I want to show you guys the Duke Ellington Circle. You're probably familiar at the southwestern point of Central Park, Columbus Circle. On the northeastern point, coming up, Duke Ellington Circle, and then on the northwestern point, which hopefully we'll get to in a little bit, Frederick Douglass Circle. And then at the southeastern tip, there's no circle. It's Grand Army Plaza. But we're going to pop out for two reasons. I want to go see Duke Ellington Circle, and then I was saying before, there is a new gate. Some of the entrances to Central Park are formally referred to as gates. And as far as I know, they were all part of the original Central Park plan, except for this one, which was very recently, in the last month, named the Gate of the Exonerated as an apology, a formal public apology to the wrongfully convicted Central Park 5. Checking out some of the birds here, Harlem Meer. You can see the ice on the water, although it's starting to melt. Just a beautiful day. Is this a nice way to kick off the year? All right, let's go see if we can check out Duke Ellington Circle as well as the Gate of the Exonerated. On this beautiful January 1st here in New York City. Let me see if I can pop out here. Very quickly. All right. Duke Ellington Circle, right across the street from the Africa Center. The only museum we've missed along this stretch was Museo del Barrio, which I apologize for, but I thought it would be fun to see the gardens and Harlem Meer. Deming is here, Dusty Cole. Joy asks, are you allowed to kayak in that water? The only body of water that I think allows stuff like that is the lake, which had rowboats. But at the moment, the Low Boathouse is closed, and so there's no more rowboats right now. All right, let's continue along. Let us continue along. Have to wait for the cars to pass. Elma's here. And I guess the other thing I would say about this area is they're doing a bunch of construction up here, and so there is a pool, or there was a pool, but it's currently closed for the construction project. So we're now on 110th Street, Central Park North. To our right, north, Spanish Harlem. Harlem. To our left, south, Central Park. We're walking west now, which would take us to Morningside Heights. You could take a really lovely walk from here over to Columbia University, for example. Really beautiful. Wow, lots of music up here, huh? LL enjoying the sound. Hey, good to hear that. All right, folks, this is what I was mentioning. The first new gate in the park's history, Gate of the Exonerated. This is historic. This was just added in the last month. A not too common example of a municipal apology. Beautiful. That's the Discovery Center here at Harlem Meer. If you guys were with us, I guess about a month ago, during the series of Christmas tree lightings in New York City, we were right there for the official unveiling of the Central Park Christmas tree lighting, which took place in the water at Harlem Meer. We were at the Discovery Center with some great holiday tunes. So if you're newer to the channel, check out our extensive collection of older videos. At this point, many, many, many hundreds.
It was flooded in that motherfucker. It was flooded.
Walking along 110th Street. It's a busy, beautiful day. Lots of folks have come out for their January walk. Ooh, check out this bike. That's got a lot going on. And coming up on Malcolm X Boulevard, aka Lenox Avenue. Some of the avenues in New York have multiple names. Another, probably the more common example would be 6th Avenue, south of Central Park, which is known as Avenue of the Americas. So many folks are out. The weather is gorgeous. The sky is blue. Yeah, ER, I have to do more reading on the history of it. But just interesting to see something incorporated into the design of the park. Well, they seem to be having an interesting start to the year. I hope they're okay. Let's see. My beautiful wife Lisa's here, wishing everybody a happy 2023. Good to see you. Which hopefully means she was able to get our little kiddo chilled out so she can hang out with us. I gave her a couple of my thoughts for today's walk. One was the drives in Central Park, and this was the other option, the perimeter of Central Park. She chose the perimeter. So here we are. Right now walking west along Central Park North, otherwise known as 110th Street. I think in Spanish Harlem this is called Tito Puente Way, if I remember correctly. And then west of Central Park, I believe it's called Cathedral Parkway. A lot of the streets in New York, like I was saying, have different names along different stretches. Recently, when we were in Midtown at Lincoln Center, one of the streets, Sesame Street. Showed you guys the official Sesame Street sign. Coming up, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. To our left, beautiful Central Park and some of the North Woods. It's so gorgeous up here. If you check our back catalog, I have a ton of videos of Central Park, but I did some of the North Woods recently. And one of the bodies of water called the Pool, which is super beautiful. Presta doesn't like it getting dark so early. Yeah, I mean, it's sundown in New York City these days is 4:30 p.m. I'm not a fan of that. Adam asking if we're going to see some of the swanky architecture along Central Park West. We sure are. We are almost there. We are one avenue away. Yeah. As we head from Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard to Frederick Douglass Circle, where we're going to see another interesting statue. And that will mark our turn onto Central Park West. To our left, the roadway you see is the drive that I was mentioning. So there's a 6-mile loop inside of Central Park. It's a wonderful walk, and it allows you to see every corner of the park. Really beautiful. I have a bunch of videos of me doing that without me yapping. So if you prefer the no talking videos, again, just search our video history for the Central Park drives. One of my favorite walks. It's about 2.5 hours. Really fun. Matt is here. We were watching Dutch Maz's stream earlier, and Fogo Azul was playing. They're an all-woman marching band here in New York City. He was filming the polar bear plunge, which is where folks jump into the water on New Year's Day in Coney Island. And William had his phone out watching the stream, and somebody nearby was saying, "What are you listening to?" I love that. Spreading the gospel of the New York City streamers. We appreciate you. Tons of benches here along 110th Street, but really all around the park. And on nice, beautiful days, you will see lots of people having their lunch on these benches, which we've done many times ourselves. Beautiful way to spend the afternoon. Up ahead, the Circle, Frederick Douglass Circle. We're going to pop across when the light allows us and go see Frederick Douglass. Funny enough, as far as I know, there are 2 statues of Frederick Douglass along Central Park West. This is the first. The other is at the New York Historical Society, which eventually we will get to. Just gonna have to wait for the light to change, and then we'll pop across into the Circle and go say hi to Mr. Douglass. Nurbek is here from Uzbekistan. Good to see you. ER says CPW, Central Park West, was your old stomping grounds. S. Field says, do these benches cost $10,000 as well? That is a great question. So what S. Fields is referring to is the plaques inside Central Park on the benches. $10,000. $10,000. Unbelievable. Devil King is here, wishing everybody a Happy New Year. Here is Frederick Douglass, who's dressed for New Year's. I had no idea. Beautiful. And the words written along here, let me see if I can get this for you guys. Right is of no sex, truth is of no color, God is the Father of us all, and we are all brethren. Masthead of the North Star, the paper from Frederick Douglass. Gita's here from Trinidad and Tobago. Nancy asked, did we not get any snow? So we had a tiny, tiny, tiny sprinkling of snow during Winter Storm Elliott. But the city has been so warm for the most part it didn't stick, and there was so little that came down. Normally, New York gets snow in January and into February. That's when it normally comes. So, okay, these folks are crossing, so let me take advantage and pop across. Oop. Trying not to get hit by any cars. We are now officially on CPW, Central Park West. Probably most people's favorite part of the perimeter. As Adam was alluding to, because of the architecture, some gorgeous buildings along Central Park West. My favorite in the near vicinity coming up on our right will be the old New York Cancer Hospital, which I believe is now expensive condominiums. So we'll find out what you guys think. Ooh, it's a beautiful day. We're now walking into the sun. Mid-50s here, but if you're right in directly into the sun, I gotta say it's pretty warm. Feels pretty warm. Show you some of the architecture here. It's really beautiful and varied. Debbie Jones wishing us a Happy New Year from 72 degrees North Florida. Hey, Happy New Year. I really do hope everybody's 2023 is as good as it gets. 108th Street now. 475, 476 Central Park West. I mean, even these smaller apartment buildings, some of them are so beautiful. Just very solid old architecture and so many different types. And we have a friend from Switzerland here today. And Nathan and Nunu's Way. So many new and familiar faces. We love to see everybody. Thanks for hanging on out with us. If you're just joining, we're doing the perimeter of Central Park today. We started on the Upper East Side, walked into Spanish Harlem, walked along 110th Street. We did pop into the park a little bit to see the gardens and Harlem Meer. And now we are on glitzy Central Park West. There's the Park West Hotel. And then this just fabulous building with the most intriguing architecture is the old New York Cancer Hospital. But I understand now to be condominiums. And it has like one of those, fancy names where it's just the address. So it's something like, 415 Central Park West or something like that. I guess you wouldn't want to call it the New York Cancer Hospital condominiums. I guess that wouldn't sell.
Excuse me, sir.
But for whatever reason, hi.
Where you get your steak from?
Oh, Amazon. This DJI.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Cheers. You too. So one thing I've learned, when you see these buildings with these big circles as part of the architecture, they're almost always hospitals. And so I think there was something about, letting light in the olden days that they viewed as, part of the healing process. So if you see these old buildings and you see that they're kind of circular in architecture, look into it and you'll often find that they were a hospital or some sort of medical facility. But how beautiful is this? And so I think the tower behind it is connected now as part of the, sorry, let me point out. I think the tower behind it is now connected to it as part of this condominium complex. But isn't it beautiful? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily want to live in it as a residence. I knew somebody who lived in, I guess it would be Nomad, in a former hospital. And it was kind of weird, for sure. It was kind of weird. Definitely kind of weird. But I do, just as a piece of architecture, I think this is one of the most beautiful buildings in New York City, and one of the most beautiful for sure along Central Park West. It's so interesting looking. LL says, it kind of reminds me of a modern castle. Yeah. Which I think is those round features, right? Kind of like turrets and stuff. Super beautiful. Oh, and we have another friend from Florida, Fort Lauderdale. I mean, I just love the architecture up here. Every building's different. Different stone, different styles. And that's part of what makes the walk so much fun, and why I think people in particular like Central Park West. And you can see along our left some of the natural features in Central Park. As you go into North Manhattan, so Manhattan sits on what's called Manhattan Schist. And as you go farther north into Manhattan, you notice it becomes much more hilly. And it's thanks to stuff like this. Walks in Camera says, has a French chateau vibe. Well, if anybody wants to figure out when it was built, and if we know anything about the architect, I'd be interested to know. If I remember correctly, the next avenue over, I think, is Manhattan Avenue. Just beautiful up here. It's a beautiful sunny day, blue skies. Can't really ask for a better January 1st here in New York City. Roman is here from West Virginia to Org Rock, touring different places. Sonoa Spiritualis. And I think, as Fields was saying, don't necessarily believe in ghosts, but believe in energy. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that place has a distinct energy. Okay, we might need to pop in briefly into the park. And let me show you guys a little panorama. Little detour. Let me just show you the water up here. It's so beautiful and peaceful. Let's pop in and go take a quick look. Adam says that he knows somebody who's friends with Claire Saffitz, the YouTube master of desserts. She's fun. Used to be on Bon Appetit before their implosion. Says supposedly she lives up in one of these buildings. Hey, this would be a pretty cool place to live. Ooh, we got some birds up ahead. Okay, I'm going to try to get us a view of some of the birds, and then we'll pop back out and continue our walk along the perimeter. But I can't miss out on the pool up here. Ooh, so many ducks and stuff. All right, let me see if there's a safe. Okay, I think I can do this. See if I can do this without falling over. Suke from Santa Fe, New Mexico with the details. Hospital built in 1884. Charles Coolidge Height was the architect in late Gothic and French chateau style. So somebody was correct. Walks in Camera said French chateau. So there you go. So I was reading, I told you guys earlier that there were a lot of interesting birds in the park these days, and one of them, I forget the exact name, but it's something like a red, is it red-billed, red head? There's a duck with the most beautiful red coloring. But I think it's been in the reservoir. And then near Belvedere Castle and Turtle Pond are a couple of owls. But check this out. I've been wondering where the turtles have been. Here's a couple turtles. I was wondering where they've been. They've come out for the sun. Ooh, and the ducks flapping away. Beautiful and peaceful over here. Oh, this duck has the most purple head. Wow. I zoom in. Hold on. The sun is, I'm like facing the sun, so the color on the phone. But in real life, it's so purple. Beautiful. Oh, that's amazing. Remarkable. Okay. All right, little brief detour inside the park. We do so many walks inside the park, but today we're doing the outside of the park. So we will be onwards, on our way, but a little treat, a little taste of Central Park. This is the pool, and behind us is a waterfall. There's a lot of beautiful stuff over here. And you can walk into the North Woods and do some nice hiking, really get your cardio. On this end, there's a lot of hills and stuff. It's really fun in the park. Ooh, did I miss more info from Ramona? In 1955, it became a nursing home, and then in 1976, a New York City landmark. And then in 1977, added to the National Register. So it's a truly historic building. And that would suggest it is well protected for us for all time. Whew, getting my cardio in today. All right, let's continue along our tour of Central Park West. Coming up on 420 Central Park West, which I will say, the first legal recreational marijuana dispensary has opened in New York City as of Thursday. If that's your thing. Prior to this, there were only medical dispensaries. And anything else that was not a medical dispensary was operating illegally. She says, nice day for a walk. It is a beautiful day for a walk here in New York City along Central Park West. Look at this. This is 418 Central Park West. And let me just show you the They have a tiny little tree, but I love the connection between these two sides of the building. This little interior courtyard sort of sounds generous, but this little interior connecting point, really beautiful.
When Tim and I were in Denver this summer, we go out.
Rich is here.
And I wanted to go see this because this is definitely been on my list.
Speaking of sort of older things, and Dorg Rock was mentioning, a lot of things have gotten lost over the years. We're still in the hundreds, but when we get to the 80s, there are a handful, just a few, remaining private residences on Central Park West, and they're some of the most beautiful buildings you've ever seen in your life. So about a mile from now, we'll see that. Cowboy Bill is here. And unlike you know, many other parts of the city, you don't see a huge amount of shop fronts, but here's one example at 100th Street, which again, if I remember correctly, marks the end of Manhattan Avenue, one avenue over, I think. But here's a couple of shop fronts, so a deli, perfect picnic. So we've been seeing all these fancy pants picnics in the park. That must be one of them. And Washoe, a little laundromat. Oh, let's do one more panorama while we're here. All these beautiful entrances into the park. So the pool, we were just on the other side of the pool to our left. Straight ahead are the fields, which we passed on the opposite side of the park. And then one of the many, many, many playgrounds here in Central Park. So lots of families out on this beautiful January 1st. Serenity asks, are we a native New Yorker? No, we are not a native New Yorker, but we have now been here. I guess we are entering year 19. So we've been here for a while. And I think on one of our streams we agreed, after 10 you're certainly a New Yorker, but we may give it to some folks at 5. Oh, it's so beautiful up here. And in a truly remarkable sight, I mean, I can never get over this. There is a parking lot on the perimeter of Central Park here, between I think 100th and 99th Street and Central Park West. I truly, I cannot get over it. I think it's for the housing around here, but I cannot possibly believe in New York City the perimeter of Central Park has a flat parking lot. That must be some of the most valuable land you can possibly imagine, and it is a parking lot. Oh, it cracks me up, this city sometimes. Lisa sharing my secrets. My beautiful wife, Lisa. So this is another building. I don't know the history of this at all. This is one thing, you know, by doing these walks, I sometimes afterwards try to read about things and just casually learn about them. If you want a true tour guide, Dutch Maz is your guy. He's a licensed New York City tour guide. I'm just an amateur. But check out this building here, 97th Street in Central Park West, with this old, you know, kind of European architecture. It kind of reminds me of like Germany or Switzerland. So beautiful. I just love it up here. How gorgeous is this? And it's like they're a series of apartment buildings with tiny little space between them. So if anybody knows anything about this, I would love to learn about it. Cowboy Bill from France. Oh, I love that building. Touring different places, going back to sleep. Hey, probably up late celebrating the new year. So beautiful up here. And to our left, you can hear the birds, and check them out. They're just filling the trees. Beautiful day here. The church we just passed read Crenshaw Christian Center East. Onwards, fellow walkers. I will say, if I inspire you to do this walk, just be aware that the surface over here is super uneven. Really, really uneven, so just be careful. I would say easy to trip over here. And I'm on the sidewalk. But it's like, cobblestone, and it's not in the best shape. Look how massive this building is. It must have, I was going to say it must have hundreds of units, but when you're on the Upper West Side, I suppose they could be bigger, more rooms per unit than I may be thinking. Liam Byrne here from the UK. Good to see you, pal. Gridlock's here, West Palm Beach, Florida. We have a bunch of folks from Florida today. Shout out Florida. Funny, I guess there must be doing stonework, so you can see, like, I guess that would be the interior structure of the building, which the bricks sit in front of. Interesting. So this is why we have New York City's famous scaffolding. When they do building work like this, what you don't want to have happen is a bunch of bricks to fall on your head. Touring, same to you. Have a great one. Happy New Year. Wishing you all good things for 2023. Coming up on 333 Central Park West, 333, which again has the sort of dual building, middle courtyard situation. Not really a courtyard, it's more like a, I don't know what we would call it, but interesting how common a feature that is on Central Park West. Traveling D is here. Hi there, what time is it? Let's check the watch. 2:20 p.m. here in New York City. Terry is here with you last night for the first time. Happy New Year. And if anybody was on last night, I know the connection was not great. So today I posted the replay, which has no buffering. The quality is a lot better. And then I also posted an excerpt of the video, just the fireworks. The midnight New Year's fireworks from New York City. And if you want to go well above and beyond in supporting the channel, consider sharing that fireworks video with a friend. It's a nice little taste of what we offer. Mr. Adams enjoying a highlight of Central Park West. Yeah, most people do, farther south in Manhattan, because for the most part, people want to see stuff that they're really familiar with. So a lot of Midtown, but sometimes Greenwich Village, and then certainly Wall Street, financial district, things like that. But some of these areas are so beautiful and really interesting history and so forth. So as we enter the 80s, we're just coming up to 91st Street here, but as we enter the 80s, some of the architecture is going to become a lot more familiar to people. So one of the first things we'll see, the few remaining private residences along Central Park West. Excited to share that. And then back to the museums, we'll see the American Museum of Natural History and the New York Historical Society. And then we'll get to some of the architecture that folks are really familiar with, like the Dakota. So lots coming up over the next couple of miles. And if you do the whole thing, so let's see if we can figure this out. So Central Park goes from 59 to 110. So that is 2.5 miles. So 2.5 plus 2.5. And then it goes from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue, so 3 avenues. What do we think that is? Mile and a half? Something like that? Mile and a half, I think. So 5 plus 3, so it's probably an 8-mile walk around the perimeter. If anybody wants to fact check me. So as we get to 90, I think we just passed 90th. We started at 91st on the opposite side of the park. So we still have to go all the way down and around and then back up to 91st on 5th Avenue. So we still have a ways to go. Dwight School. But check out this building. Oh. ER, Dakota's at 72nd. Tarun is here from Mauritius. JJHW loves New York City. Well, we got that in common. Look at this building. Look at the detailing on it. I see Leela. Wishing the whole fam a Happy New Year. Hey, same to you, Leela. And thank you to everybody for being here today, but for many of you who have been with us now, really throughout 2022. We started the channel in 2021, I would say, measured start, slow start. 2022 was pretty big for us. So big thank you to everybody who's been part of that. As we enter 2023. Romachek says 6.1. So so what am I missing about the north ends, the north and south end must be shorter than I think. Well, that saves my legs a little bit, doesn't it? And then let me just point the camera down here so you guys can see some of the architecture in the Upper West Side. Some of the beautiful brownstones, townhouses. We'll do more of the side streets one of these days. Ooh, and check out, there's still some beautiful color in Central Park. Look at this with the sun glistening on it. ER used to live at 75th and Riverside. Riverside Drive has been on my to-do list for a live stream, because I think Riverside Drive, West End Avenue are really some of the most beautiful parts of New York City. Just talk about, you know, gorgeous architecture. So we'll have to do that in the coming days. There's a subway stop here for the B and C trains, 86th Street. This is 87th, and then the 86th Street stop, this is 87th Street, and then there's 86th Street coming up. Building across the street, 262 Central Park West, the White House. Brad is here, Peter's here. Good to see everybody, good to meet everybody. If we're seeing each other for the first time. Today we are literally walking around Central Park, which we have been corrected 6.1 miles. G says it's so sunny I could walk all day. I gotta tell you, it feels great. It feels really good. It feels really good. Okay, so at the next corner, this is one of the things I've been mentioning coming up. The last private residences along Central Park West, which I love to see. Just need to wait for the light to change. But I'm excited to share this with you guys. Most of what we're seeing are these massive apartments. And then there's some historic architecture, there's some churches and things, museums. But up ahead, the last remaining private residences. Can you possibly imagine owning a private residence along Central Park West? I cannot imagine what they cost. And they probably don't change hands very frequently, because why would you possibly give it up? So let's go take a quick look at that. But honestly, as we make our way across 257, also very beautiful. But check these out. I mean, these look so gorgeous. And they're so unique. There's really nothing like it left. So it's these three units, houses, and they're, you know, connected, but have these interesting, distinct styles. They're so beautiful. How cool is this? I think most people, if you said, hey, what's your favorite building on Central Park West, they would probably say the Dakota. But the New York Cancer Hospital that we saw earlier, and then these, should be in the running. Serenity asking, is the New York Athletic Club around here? So I sometimes forget the name of them. I think what you're thinking of is along Central Park South, which we'll get to eventually. But is that the Athletic Club? I think it's the Athletic Club. Maybe somebody can correct us. Aren't these awesome? Yeah, we'll get to the Dakota in a little bit. So we're at 85th Street now. 73rd and 72nd. So we still have half a mile to get there. We'll be there 10 minutes or so. But before then, the next big site will be the beautiful and massive complex of the American Museum of Natural History. as well as the New York Historical Society.
Yeah. Okay.
Latha's here. Adam says the corner of East 86 and East End Avenue has the same style of townhome architecture. Yes, yes, Adam, and there's a private street there. What is the name of the private street? I know exactly what you're talking about. Henderson Place, is that what it's called? Henderson Place, am I remembering correctly? I think that's the little private street that those are along. Andy says, New York is amazing. With the beautiful blue sky. And then let me show you guys a little more of the park. I've been pointing almost exclusively at the apartments on the other side, but check out the park over here. More of the rock faces that you see along Central Park West in the northern section. So beautiful. And then in winter, covered in icicles. So as we get into January and February, you'll see these rocks covered in icicles and so. Well, here's an example because it's behind the shade. Check this out, big thing of ice. Cowboy Bill says, how to recognize tourists in New York City. They're the one with the head held up. Yeah, we probably look like a tourist today. We're holding our big camera, we're staring up. That's okay. That's okay. We may get a little buffering up ahead because I'm starting to see hundreds of people near the American Museum of Natural History. So we're going to keep walking. If we get some buffering, just bear with us. We'll get through it together. Faizan is here. Naboul has to head out, but hey, good to see Naboul from the south, the beautiful south of France. Has been doing some wonderful live streams from the beautiful south of France. So check out Naboul's channel. He even did a Christmas carriage ride that was wonderful. I think I may, what should we do? I'm trying to decide if we should cross the street. Yeah, we got the light. Let's cross the street and go next to the Museum of American Natural History, excuse me. Sorry, just checking both sides of the street. Made a critical error. Now I can't get back on the sidewalk. All right, let's go take a look at the Natural History Museum. Daryl Janik is from Chicago. I don't know if he's still on. He was on earlier. But as far as I know, the last remaining Uno Pizzeria in Manhattan is right down there. Here's Theodore Roosevelt Park. And up ahead, the planetarium. And I do want to apologize if I don't read out your chat. The chat is moving past my screen very quickly today, which is fun because it means we have a lot of people and we have a nice healthy chat. But I apologize if I miss yours. Doing my best. All right, let's go see a little bit of the Natural History Museum up front. You may recall there was a Teddy Roosevelt statue on the front. Also had a complicated history and has been moved and replaced with a plaque. So we'll go see the plaque for Teddy Roosevelt. And if you want to read about the statue, you know, it's an interesting Interesting story. David Morris here, watching from England. Hey, good to see you, pal. We love our friends in England. My wife Lisa and I have been to London several times. Let's see. Just trying to see. They do not have their prices up, so I wanted to tell you guys what some things cost, but I'm not seeing the prices.
Walk down here.
So along the walls here, some benches, but they mention some attributes about Teddy Roosevelt. So patriot, soldier, humanitarian, historian, author, statesman. And then formerly right here in the middle was the statue, but it's now a plaque. Let's go read the plaque. Theodore Roosevelt Memorial, 1858 to 1919, in honor of New York State's 33rd governor, the nation's 26th president, awarded Nobel Peace Prize, Medal of Honor recipient, author, and naturalist. And then here's a second plaque, which explains a little bit of what I was talking about before. The equestrian statue of Theodore Roosevelt erected on this site by New York State following Roosevelt's death was removed in 2022 by agreement among the museum, the Roosevelt family, and the city of New York because its composition suggested a racial hierarchy. And if you want to know what that means and want to see what it used to look like, just Google the American Museum of Natural History Roosevelt statue, and I think you will quickly understand why in 2022 its time may have passed. This is a wonderful museum, but it is a little bit of a, what's the best way to phrase this? Time capsule? So the blue whale and the dioramas, it really does in many ways feel like it's from a previous time. But it is a lot of fun, it's educational, and it's interesting to visit now as they kind of grapple with the history. I think it's pretty interesting. And they always do have modern exhibits, so it's not like it's all history. Not like it's just stuck in time, is my point. Dorogrok, referring to the buildings of 57th Street Billionaires Row, says we can spot the monstrosities up ahead. They look like pencils. Oh, that cracks me up. That cracks me up. Yes, 55 degrees here in New York. It was a little windy earlier. It's not been super windy for the past couple of miles. And at the moment on Central Park West, we're walking into the sun. So we're feeling very warm, to be honest. Perhaps we are overdressed. Esfield says it's a vintage museum. Is that redundant? That's well said. Coming up next, so I mentioned earlier, we were at Frederick Douglass Circle. We saw a statue of Frederick Douglass. We're coming up on statue number 2 of Frederick Douglass here at one of my favorite museums in all of New York City. The New York, spelled New-York. Sorry, very noisy. So the New-York Historical Society, one of my favorite museums in all of New York City. But let's go say hello again for a second time today to Frederick Douglass, this time here at the Historical Society. And then there's another statue around the corner that people are probably pretty familiar with. Suke with some valuable insight. She says that museums are products of their time periods. That's okay, mostly as long as we understand the history, honestly. That is well said, Suke. Orphan Annie wishing us a Happy New Year. Beautiful here at the Historical Society. So they always have the most interesting exhibits here, and right now one of the exhibits is on the history of delis in New York City. So if you're a fan of Katz's, Russ and Daughters, all things delicatessen, one of the exhibits at the New York Historical Society is about delis in New York City and New York City history. So check that out. I haven't had a chance to go yet, but I cannot wait to visit that because I think that's like an exhibit perfectly designed for me. And then here's statue number 2 at the Historical Society. Honest Abe. S. Field says, fun fact, he's waiting for his Uber. So let's see, I'm going to stand next to him for a second and see how tall I am compared to him. He's a good, I'm 6'1", and I would say he's at least a few inches taller than I am. Oh, that's fun. I love the Historical Society. If you're interested in history, and in particular New York City history, you got to check out the Historical Society. And they've been doing a really good job of having, exhibits that appeal to a wide audience. And so like the deli exhibit, I think is so smart, so funny. Franny says he was supposed to be tall. Yeah, I've heard that as well. So he's that statue. According to that statue, he's probably 6'4", 6'5". This is the 4th Universalist Society. So some of you, if you've been on our channel before, I probably need to, let me cross the street. Let me wait for the light and cross the street so I can show you this building. And the reason I'm going to show you this building is, if you know our channel, if we were introduced to each other on Thanksgiving Day at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, it's because this is where we were standing. Orphan Annie says 6'4", so we're pretty close. We're pretty close. Troy McDonald's here. 175th like. Hey, that's awesome. Maybe we can get to 200 and beyond. We've still got a ways to go. I actually need to sort of pick up my pace. I gotta get back home to the kiddo and my beautiful wife, Lisa. Celtic says, looked up the statue of Teddy, and yeah, it was definitely a product of the time, right? We're coming up to one of the fairly familiar sites of Central Park West if you're in Central Park, which is the San Remo. So there's a few sort of twin-towered buildings along Central Park West. And I should have pointed out, we're a little ways from it now, but if you're at the Jackie Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, the twin-towered building, we're a little too far for me to show it now, but that's the El Dorado. Over here next to the lake in Central Park is the San Remo. And then just up ahead is the Majestic. So there's a few of these interesting sort of twin-towered buildings along Central Park West. And over here it's the San Remo and the Majestic. The San Remo has the ornate top and the Majestic has the flat top. But as we get closer to 73rd Street, we're about to see, probably for many of you, your favorite site, I have to imagine, which is the Dakota. Noble Sweetness is here. Always good to see you. And yeah, I need to stop dawdling along so much, so we're going to pick up our pace a little bit. For those of you who don't know my channel as well, we just had a newborn. It's a couple months old now, but I can't be out for hours and hours and hours on end, so I need to start picking up my pace a tiny bit as we make our way around the park. This beautiful ornate building on our right is the Langham. Ah, just gorgeous. I mean, like every building around here tells a story. Best Rear Vision is here. All right, and here is the Dakota. So gorgeous. I'll try to get a lot of angles of it for you guys. It really is a magnificent building. I mean, it's popular. I mean, obviously historically relevant because of Lenin, but I think it is a truly spectacular looking building. Big talk with congratulations. Hey, thanks for that. Celeste wishing everyone a fantastic afternoon and evening, and may 2023 bring you health and happiness. Hey, same to you. Love having you here. And I want to echo that, wish everybody a happy 2023. Thanks for kicking off the new year with us today. So last time I was here, I have a Central Park recorded video, and I started right over here, and I kept getting yelled at by the guys on the bikes because I was in their way. Whoops. Whoops. All right, hold on. Should we go pop in for, breaking my own rules. Let's go very briefly pop into Strawberry Fields on behalf of our beloved moderator, S. Fields. Let's very quickly go see the Imagine mosaic. And then I really do have to pick up the pace. But when in Rome, right? Walks in Camera says, thanks, the former hospital is one for you. Cowboy Bill says, thanks for welcoming us. Hey, we love sharing New York City with folks who love to explore along with us. And we've been enjoying doing these live streams and having the chat. All right, let's go. Oh my God, there's a lot of people today. Let me see if I can just get us a quick peek at the mosaic. Well, this is the place to be today. This is where everybody's hanging out. My beautiful wife, Lisa, keeping me honest as I break my rules right as I set them for myself. All right, let's get out of here. Let's pick up the pace. We're on the East 70s and we need to get back to the West 90s. Sorry, we're on the West 70s and need to get back to the East 90s. So we're going to pick up the pace, folks. Everybody, put on your running shoes. We're gonna begin the hustle. We've done the bustle, now it's the hustle. the beautiful, beautiful Dakota. Our last look as we make our way further south. If you do come at night and check out the entryway with these beautiful gas lamps. It's so beautiful over here. And then in there is a nice little courtyard view. But we will see that another day. We will continue our tour, making our way, working our way around, onwards. And Murray's here from Donegal, Ireland. Hot boy.
I do.
Stay Parker says it's not far from Strawberry Fields in Liverpool. Hey, that's cool. Serenity says they sang Imagine last night in Times Square. Oh, that would have been beautiful. I would have enjoyed that. G suddenly wants pizza or a good cup of coffee. Hey, you and me both. I'm trying to think, on this walk around Central Park, where would I go have pizza? Is Adam still on? Where would you get pizza if you were to do this walk? So along Central Park South, if you walk south a couple blocks on 7th Avenue, you could go to Angelo's next to the Ed Sullivan Theater. That's, I think, the first thing that comes to that immediately comes into my mind. It's a bit of a walk, but if you're at 110th Street, I guess you would walk to 116, if I remember correctly, and go to the original Patsy's in Harlem. That's some good pizza. But let me know if I'm missing any pizza recommendations around Central Park. So many of these buildings, you know, they don't have, you know, they're not the San Remo, they're not named necessarily or anything, but they're still just as gorgeous. I mean, there's so much cool architecture over here. Ooh, Adam, I think we're doing Mexican tonight, so that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Ooh, S Fields had tacos. Everybody. The thing to have right now, Mexican. That sounds good. Serenity said, look at the mini building sandwich there, right? Let me point at it one more time just because that was funny. Yeah, lay thus as the Pizzeria Uno. I pointed that one out for one of our viewers from Chicago. This is the Second Church of Christian Scientist. Another city bike rack, so lots of places to take part in New York City's bike share program. There are a couple of, there's at 59th Street that we're coming up to, there are some bike rental vendors, and around Central Park South there's some bike rental vendors, but it's also just as easy to grab one of these city bikes. Ooh, did we get the pizza suggestion from Adam? Hold on. bit out of the way, but Pizza Collective, 70th and Broadway is phenomenal. You've mentioned that before and I haven't had it yet. If you're gonna go out of the way as well on the Upper West Side, Mama's 2. Mama's TOO. I had a video from Broadway and there was this huge line of people and it was prominent enough that I said, they're there for Mama's 2 and you could check that out. Latha used to be at 68th. I love this area. This would take you to, if you walk west along these side streets, would take you over to Lincoln Center, which we've done a few times recently. They've had some beautiful art exhibits, outdoor art at Lincoln Center, and at night you can see that the side streets are often beautifully lit up. Leaf is heading out. Hey, wishing you a happy 2023, Happy New Year's. Another beautiful church. There's so much gorgeous architecture here, isn't there? I think that says Holy Trinity Unitarian Mass, Unitarian Church, Lutheran Church. It's a little small, but Holy Trinity. That much I can read for sure. So if you are just joining us, we were in Central Park last night streaming New Year's. Had some connection difficulties, but I reposted this morning a replay of our stream. So if you want to check out how New York City celebrates New Year's outside of Times Square, join us for fireworks inside of Central Park. Coming up, this imposing structure is the Society for Ethical Culture. Look how massive this is. Dedicated to the ever-increasing knowledge and practice and love of the right, the Society for Ethical Culture founded the city of New York, May 1876. Huge and imposing structure, and then next to it, the Ethical Culture School. So much history. This is the Century Building, 25 Central Park West, another beautiful one. Look how tall. Cowboy Bill needs to validate his passport, head over to New York City. Scott Briggs, Mr. Adams. Oh, the decline of the Uno. Yeah. Yep. If you are in New York City and for some reason you just need a break from New York City pizza, the one I recommend is Emmett's on MacDougal Street down in the Village, which is a couple of brothers moved here from Chicago. They make Chicago style pizza, both deep dish and the sort of Chicago bar style pizzas. So check that out. We love Emmett's. This is 15 Central Park West, which isn't this where A-Rod used to live? Maybe still does. Yeah, Scott, we did a bunch of, during the pandemic, pizza making at home. Little New York, little Chicago, little Detroit. We had a good time doing that. Look into a company called Lloyd's Pans. They make all the pizza making equipment you could possibly need. Lloyd's Pans. We are now entering Columbus Circle, marking the end of Central Park West. We will round the corner and head into Central Park South, 59th Street. To our right, around the bend at Columbus Circle, is what is now known as the Deutsche Bank Center, which I always have a little giggle about because it's just such a silly name. Does not roll off the tongue very easily. Natalia's here from Russia with Love. Happy New Year. Hey, wishing you a Happy New Year. Here we are, Columbus Circle, Deutsche Bank Center. That's a good place, have a snack. There's a little shopping, obviously. Good place to sit. And they have public restrooms if you're in this area. And then this is the magnificent Maine Monument to the valiant seamen who perished in the Maine. Serenity said, should tourists take the metro or better not to? Yeah, I'm with Adam. Just, you just want to be aware of your surroundings, kind of anywhere in any big city. The city has added a lot of police to the stations to help people become more comfortable. But what's great about the public transportation system here in New York is that it operates 24 hours a day and it's always the same price. And so if you're going one stop just to rest your legs, or you're taking the train from end to end from, I don't know, the Upper East Side of Manhattan all the way to Coney Island, it's $2.75, and cheaper if you pay for multiple rides in advance. Or if you use the Omni tap and pay, it's I think after 12 rides in a week, every ride is free. Lisa says, "Hey Sean, Vatican tour." Okay, what Lisa means by that is we're gonna rapidly pick up the pace. Whoops. All right. No more lollygagging. We are going to truly hustle. No more stops. Time to get back home to the missus and relieve her from duty. So let's see, we are crossing now 7th Avenue and Central Park South, then to 6th, then to 5th, and then back up. And we will walk from 59th Street and finish at where we started, 91st. So we have a little bit of a walk to do, but we're going to pick up the pace significantly, if we can. All right, we got to get around. So if you were to walk south right here, Carnegie Hall. And do you know how to get to Carnegie Hall? Mirko's here from Germany. And my beautiful wife says, Mama needs her own walk while the sun is still out. Yes, okay, so we will pick up the pace for my beautiful wife as we conclude the perimeter of Central Park. To our right, one of the beautiful hotels. This is the Essex House, which at night there's a beautiful sign up above, visible from Central Park. S Fields gets it. Practice, practice, practice. Up ahead, another beautiful hotel, the Park Lane. And then the most famous of them all, especially if you just recently rewatched Home Alone 2, the Plaza Hotel. So many beautiful buildings here along Central Park South. Again, this is 59th Street. The buildings that many people point out when they look south along the park are from Billionaires Row, which is 2 blocks south, 57th Street. And they tower above everything over here, but are famous for their sort of pencil-thin architecture. Some would say infamous. Coming up now, 6th Avenue. Cowboy Bill heading out. We'll be back. Hey, thanks for being here. Adam says as part of his big interviewing process, he did meet with the Essex House and the Park Lane. Hey. You really got around, pal. There are some restaurants along Central Park South. Behind us, I think it's called Marea, which is seafood. Gabriel's is supposed to be very good. But probably the one a lot of folks would go to is right there with the blue awning, which is Sarah Beth's, one of the most famous brunches in New York City, though not necessarily this particular location, but folks love Sarah Beth's. My wife, to tell you a story, on her birthday, wanted Sarah Beth's for brunch. I'm not really a brunch guy. I save all of my calories for dinner. But we went to Sarah Beth's for her brunch on the Upper West Side. And she was so insistent and so excited. So we went, and directly next to us, they were doing street construction, including jackhammering the street. So it was probably the least pleasant birthday brunch you've ever imagined. Whoops. Here we are at the Plaza Hotel. There's 2 plazas. Aside from the Plaza Hotel, there are 2 plazas over here. On our left, Grand Army Plaza, and on our right, Pulitzer Plaza. Some people get confused about this. They say, Grand Army Plaza, isn't that in Brooklyn? And the answer is yes, there's also a Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn, just as there is one right here in Manhattan, with a gilded statue of Sherman. And if you want to see more of 5th Avenue and the Christmas sights and the Bloomingdale's holiday windows and so on, I have many, many, many walks and live streams. Just search 5th Avenue in my videos. But we're going to hang a left today to continue our walk along the perimeter of Central Park. Ooh, it is so busy today. Everybody has come out. I haven't seen it this busy over here in a long time. People love the warmer weather, I guess.
Uh-huh.
All right, I'm gonna have to be more creative here. We keep getting stuck. We have to drive. We have to walk offensively, not defensively today. There's the gilded statue of Sherman in the Manhattan Grand Army Plaza. And then over here to our left, if you were to take this entrance into the park, it will take you right to the Central Park Zoo, which I cannot wait to take my kiddo to one day. All right, heading back here onto Fifth Avenue, opposite the Pierre, one of the fanciest hotels in New York City. There's a few fancy hotels right over here, the Sherry Netherland, the Pierre, as well as the Plaza Hotel. Pick your poison if you have something on the order of $900 a night. Oh, and Adam sounds like he might have interviewed with them as well. My friend, you really did work the full court press. Christian says we've never developed a New York accent. Yeah, I know. I was just talking about that with my dad, who's visiting. And he said for the most part, it seems like New York has lost its accent. And I said that's mostly true, except for Brooklyn and Staten Island. For New York City, I mean, like Long Island and other parts, there's still some accent. But for New York City, I think there's a little in Brooklyn, but Staten Island really retained what many people think of as the New York accent. I have not picked it up. Saying to our left, the Central Park Zoo. Truly a fun afternoon to be had in the Central Park Zoo. And one of my favorite sites in the zoo, the Delacorte clock, which chimes every half hour. And this imposing structure on our left, which we showed last night, lit up beautifully in green. It's part of our New Year's Eve stroll, is the Arsenal. One of two buildings in Central Park that predate Central Park. Was an active arsenal. Now it is home to the New York City Parks Department, art gallery, and also has public restrooms. Walks and Camera says Gabe from Walking Commuter has a New York City. Yeah, he has a great accent. He's fun to listen to. I think that's part of the charm of certain streamers, is that they sound the way you want them to sound. Let me just show you very quickly the Arsenal. And then just down around the corner right here would be the Delacorte clock. But we do not have the time today, I'm afraid. So onwards to 91st Street. We're at 65th now. Onwards to 91st. On our right, we've seen many churches. This is a synagogue, Temple Emmanuel. Beautiful, huh? And on our left is the children's section of the Central Park Zoo. Probably in my near future. We'll be taking the kiddo there.
Like that, Mitchell, Evan, and Greg is like me and
Wow. Those drivers, road rage. Not a good way to start 2023, I have to tell you. Rabbit Dog says, not many planes in the sky. You know, the funniest thing is, the first plane I've seen recently, of all things, was a Southwest Airlines plane. So I guess they must have finally started to figure out their systems again. Total catastrophe, breakdown over the holidays. Something like 1 million people's travel got disrupted at what is for many of them the most important flight of the year, to be with family and so forth. But funny enough, the first plane I saw in the sky recently was a Southwest Airlines plane, because you can tell they're painted so, they have such a particular paint job. This is the 7th Regiment Memorial. Christian mentions Carla. Yeah, she has a distinct accent. And Gabe is distinguishing Manhattan from other boroughs. Interesting. One of my best friends from college was from Staten Island. Always enjoy talking to him because he has such, it's just pure New York. It's really wonderful. The music you hear is coming from Central Park on a nice day like this, a weekend day. There will be musicians all over the park busking. And you can sit and pick whichever type of music you want. Someone will be playing jazz. Someone will be singing New York, New York. Old, new, amplified and acoustic. You can pick whichever you like. And many of them now have QR codes, since not everybody carries cash anymore. And you can, Venmo them or PayPal them a tip. Leila mentions the different logistics system that Southwest uses versus the other ones. Yeah, I'm always interested in business, and particularly these kind of big breakdowns. And it'll be interesting to read about it, because many people would argue that their approach should make them more resilient than the others. And for the most part, they seem to be blaming their technology systems. On our right, this is the Frick collection, the Henry Clay Frick House. Currently, the collection actually does not sit there. It sits at Frick Madison, just a little ways away, as the Henry Clay Frick House undergoes some renovations. And we've talked about this a few times, but if you're in New York and you've ever been to the original Frick collection, or if you're going to visit again in the future when it reopens, it's so interesting to see the same art that normally sits in this really ornate mansion and is now currently sitting in a modern art museum. Used to be the Whitney and the Met's modern art collection. It's so interesting to see how the art looks in a different environment.
peel it or throw it away.
But I can't wait to go back to the Frick collection. The house. I mean, that was one guy's house that is now a museum, and it is remarkably beautiful. It is so beautiful. The other one that's fairly similar is the Morgan Library, farther down Madison Avenue. And it's a combination of these stunning buildings and architecture with the most, with world-class collections. It's really cool. I'm trying to speed walk here, but it's tough because people are coming from every direction. All right, we're in the 70s now. We just passed 72nd Street and 5th Avenue, which I often recommend is a great entrance into Central Park. Immediately on your right, you have Conservatory Water, which is during summer, the model sailboat pond. You keep going, you'll get to Bethesda Fountain Terrace and Arcade. Opposite Bethesda, going south, is the Mall and Literary Walk. And then if you keep going, it takes you over to Strawberry Fields and the Dakota. So 72nd is such a great place to enter the park. My sincere thanks to our moderators. Sounds like we have some interesting times in the chat. I appreciate each of you. Last night and today I did not use subscribers mode. So thought we'd open things up a little bit more, but it does unfortunately mean our blessed moderators' jobs are a little more difficult. This channel appreciates New York and wants to spread good vibes, and if that's not your thing, there are many other places on YouTube to check out. Do we still have any of our friends from France?
That's an embassy, or?
It is like playing a game of Frogger walking over here today. People are just keep wandering, walking diagonally. Sue K says the Morgan is amazing as it is, as is its cafe. My best friend from 5th grade on, they used to have lunch there until just a few years ago. Hey, that's awesome. It's such a stunning building, an amazing collection. You can go see. They have a Gutenberg Bible among many other rare and fascinating pieces in its collection. The last two exhibits we saw there, they're another example of doing really interesting exhibits that appeal to a very wide audience. One was a Lord of the Rings Tolkien exhibition. That was pretty cool. And then prior to that, we saw a Frankenstein exhibit. So they have, so what I mean by that is they have original pieces, drawings, manuscripts and things. It's actually really cool. We had a good time at both of those. ABX is here. And I learned earlier, ABX ran a midnight 5K, so everybody give your congrats to the ABX girl for that. What a way to ring in a new year. That's really cool. We were in Central Park where we watched the fireworks.
Nein.
Speaking of our friends from France, on our right, the Albertine. Google the Albertine if you want to see the most beautiful ceilings in all of New York City. Google the Albertine. It is a French language bookstore, but it has the most stunning ceilings you're likely to see. It's really cool. And it's free to go in and browse. You don't have to buy anything. You can just pop in. It's a store. You just have to remember that more or less everything is in French. Well, again, my thanks to the mods who are keeping this a friendly and positive space for folks to hang out and share in their enthusiasm and love of New York City. We are passing now 79th Street, which brings us to my favorite museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We can cross here, but we'll have to pause in the middle until the cars stop. Are we stopping? Yes. Okay. There's a nice little entrance to the park here with the three bears. Ooh, and a jazz trio's playing. That sounds beautiful. If you're fans of the television show Succession, we caught them filming right over here. Asfield says it's because I haven't seen the ceiling in her hallway. That's funny. All right, we are at 80th Street. We are 11 blocks from concluding our perimeter tour of Central Park. So we've probably done 5.5 miles. We're in the last half-mile stretch. Lots of art vendors along the pathway here as we come up to the Met. Ooh, look at the line at the Met. Is that a line, or is it just people hanging? It might just be people hanging out on the steps. Let's go find out. They must be closed today, right? Do we think they're closed? Let's find out. She says, I imagine there are many great bookstores. Yeah, New York has a lot of really cool bookstores. Just off the top of my head, you know, there's a few historic bookstores like Rare Books and stuff. The Strand, in particular, the location at Union Square is formerly, you know, it was Bookstore Row, and that's really the last one there. Down in Lower Manhattan, there's this incredible mystery bookstore that I love. Just one of these old, one-of-a-kind sort of places. Yeah, it does look closed. I guess it closed for the holiday. And then Adam is mentioning Logo Books on the Upper East Side, which is his neck of the woods. On the Upper East Side, there's also, I forget the name, but there is a cookbook store, which I always think is so unique. Imagining having an entire bookstore dedicated to cooking. And I think I remember reading that over the past couple of years, I think the owner passed away, but hopefully, I'm hoping that the store is still going strong. But there's lots of interesting bookstores all around New York City. Probably if I had to just pick one, it would be the Strand on at Union Square. It's like 12th and Broadway. Some of the beautiful mansions as we come back here to Fifth Avenue. on the Upper East Side. I think this is a private school, if I remember correctly. Is this Marymount? Lisa mentions the Corner Bookstore on Madison. Ooh, Serenity, I missed your question. ER mentions 3 lives. Yes, that's a good one.
And call it.
Oh, is it the question that we're currently answering? Sorry. Too much of a rush now. This is Ancient Playground. Again, one of many of the children's playgrounds around Central Park. '85th Street. We are 6 blocks away from completing our tour of the perimeter of Central Park. No, can't make it. Must be patient. Okay, now we can make it. As we come up to 86th Street, on our right is another museum, the Neue, N-E-U-E, the Neue. And then if you were to enter the park on our left here, you would go to one of my all-time favorite sites, the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. Truly a beautiful walk. ER says, favorite bookmark from the Oscar Wilde bookstore that closed over 10 years ago. James Walker says, interesting, there were a lot fewer 911 calls compared to last year. Maybe we're all learning to get along. Well, we can only hope that is true, that people are getting along more. Adam says, a lot of avid readers here in New York City. Leila says the Neue Gallery is nice. So we tried to go to the Neue about a year ago, I think. And at the time, they had a very limited number of tickets. You had to have a ticket. And we just showed up and we didn't have tickets. And it wasn't one of those situations where you can just pop online and get some. So I haven't been yet. Instead, we went over to the Jewish Museum and we had a great time. Which we saw, the Jewish Museum we saw on this stream at the very beginning, about 2 hours ago. S. Fields and Lisa Grease says, honestly, any bookstore does it for me, especially the small cozy ones. Hey, now you're talking. Turns out we have a book lovers chat. This is good to know. On our right, the historic Solomon Guggenheim. And they've been doing a lot of work on the, I think it's concrete, you know. So you can sort of see on the second level, they're still doing a little work up there. But basically what they've been doing is sort of sandblasting it and then I guess replacing the concrete. This is a fun one, and it does go in that sort of rotation. So what I always recommend is you go to the top and work your way down. I haven't been there in a while, but what did we see there, Lisa? It was like Mapplethorpe, I think, which if you know anything about his art, it is, many would say, rather adult. And there were a lot of families there that day. And I'm remembering as a new father myself, what I'm sure were incredibly awkward conversations they had to have afterwards. Yes, Fields has switched to audiobooks. I'm a big fan of audiobooks, obviously. On a lot of my recorded walks, the reason I'm not talking is because I'm either listening to a podcast or an audiobook. And early on in my YouTube experience, I walked every street in Manhattan. And one of the things I listened to was Stephen Fry reading all of Sherlock Holmes. It was something, the reason I did that was if you signed up for, what's the audio book store? Audible? Yeah, Audible. You got a free book. And what they don't tell you is it can be a long book or a short book. And I picked one of the longest books you can possibly find on audiobook. It's like 60 hours, some insane thing. So that accompanied me for many, many, many of my walks. All right, folks, this is it. 91st Street and 5th Avenue. I apologize that the last, 45 minutes, an hour has been a little rushed. I have to get home to my wife and the kiddo. But here we are, crossing the threshold here at 91st Street and 5th Avenue. We have done it. We have walked 6.1 miles. We have crossed the perimeter of the park off of our live streaming checklist. Huge thank you to everybody who joined, for chatting, for liking, subscribing, watching, leaving comments. We love every one of you. We wish everybody a tremendous 2023. We're going to do lots more things like this in the new year. And we hope we get to do it with many of you again here at the Cooper Hewitt, which, check out the beginning of last night's stream, was lit up in this like sort of brilliant pink or purple. It was really beautiful. So a huge thank you to everybody. Ooh, I am out of breath now. We did like the last 2 miles quite quickly. But a huge thank you to everybody for being with us. You guys made, outside of having our kid, you really added a huge amount to our 2022 together. We had such a good time with everybody. And we're excited for what 2023 will bring. We hope it brings only good things to each of you. So from me, from Lisa, from Caleb, have a terrific 2023. And we'll see everybody again real soon. Take care, everybody. Cheers.